Welcome to Jurassic Park Minute. Jurassic Park Minute is the fan podcast that chronicles and overanalyzes the classic 1993 film Jurassic Park minute by minute. I'm Kyle.
I'm Brady.
And today we are further going to look at a dinosaur in minute number 21. Brady, how are you doing this morning?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm pretty good, man. It's a Tuesday here. We're, marching forward to the end of Ghostbusters Minute. Jurassic Park Minute continues to chug forward. Got a long way to go with this show, and it's been a lot of fun so far. Continues to be fun. I'm glad we're actually getting to see some dinosaurs now, though.
Yeah, seriously. We're able to see CGI, for the first time, really shown in all its glory.
Yeah. Well, hey, do you want to go ahead and get on to the minute?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. In the previous minute, we got to see a dinosaur for the first time. Grant and Ellie had jumped out of the Jeep after seeing a Brachiosaurus. At minute number 21, Grant and Ellie walk closer to the Brachiosaurus as they continue to understand what they are seeing. As they walk along staring up at the towering sauropod, Grant points up. At 21:10, Grant says, "It's a dinosaur." Ellie agrees. At 21:12, we cut to a shot of John Hammond laughing at Grant and Ellie's sense of discovery. Ian Malcolm looks at the dinosaur and says, "You did it. Crazy son of a bitch, you did it." The Jeep driver slowly turns and looks at him. At 21:20, we cut to another shot of Grant and Ellie walking and looking at the dinosaur. Grant says, "We could tear up the rule book on cold-bloodedness. It doesn't apply. They were totally wrong. This is a warm-blooded creature." Ellie notes that it doesn't live in a swamp. Grant remarks that it has a 25 to 27 foot long neck. The Brachiosaurus takes a bite off of a branch as John Hammond remarks that its neck is 30 feet long. At 21:34, the Brachiosaurus lets out a long bellow and stands up on its hind legs to reach a tall branch. After a few seconds of snapping the branch, it drops back to all fours as the earth rumbles under its weight. At 21:47, we cut back to a shot of Gennaro sitting in his Jeep as he notes that they are going to make a fortune on this place. At 21:57, Grant asks how fast they are. Hammond responds that they clock the T-Rex at 32 miles an hour. And thus ends minute number 21 of Jurassic Park Minute. We were talking a little bit about CGI in the previous episode, but CGI was not actually their first choice to show the dinosaurs here in Jurassic Park. At first, they were going to go with kind of a stop-motion type animation, right?
Yeah, they were going to go for stop-motion animation, which you had seen since the beginning of film. I mean, it's ironic that we're talking about stop-motion animation, and one of the first things that come to mind is King Kong, the original King Kong, and the fact that when people saw that, some people actually thought they were seeing real animals.
Right. Yeah.
So it's interesting how that kind of stuff has evolved, and with Jurassic Park, you kind of saw it evolve, or at least come to almost a full stop.
Yeah, I think when I was growing up, one of my favorite movies, I was huge into mythology, and I loved Jason and the Argonauts, and I loved all those movies. Oh, what was the one with the little... was it Jason and the Argonauts? Jason and the Argonauts had the skeletons.
I know what you're talking
Clash
about.
of the Titans.
Clash of the
That's
Titans.
what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yes, loved Clash of the Titans, loved Jason and the Argonauts. And, of course, those had like the Ray Harryhausen stop-motion animation that was so awesome. Bebo, the little mechanical owl that Artemis had used to send down to whoever it was. It's not Jason. God, I can't remember. Perseus. It was Perseus. Okay, who had the little owl. Anyway, and then the Kraken and all that stuff. It was very, very cool for its day and very cool for a child that didn't know any better, before CGI came along. But before they actually decided to use CG in this movie, the prevailing technology at the time was still stop motion animation up until that point. It had gotten really, really, really good with Phil Tippett's Go motion animation, right?
Yeah, that's right. From the start, the plan to see dinosaurs when they weren't going to be live animatronics was going to be through stop motion animation. And there are actually some clips out there on YouTube which show kind of the crude preliminary tests that they were going to use, and then some of the actual final stuff. Well, they needed to really use a type of technology that was going to give the motion of the dinosaurs a sort of blur. Whenever you see animals or objects moving in the stop motion form, there's never an actual blur that you would see if you were actually looking at it with your own eyes. It's always a little too pristine, a little too perfect.
Right, yeah.
And to make it that much more realistic, they had to give the motion blur to these things. So Phil Tippett had actually gone out and perfected this motion blur technology with Go Motion. So it was right around that time that Dennis Muren of Industrial Light and Magic came to Steven Spielberg and said, "Listen, I really think the direction we need to go with this film is through computer-generated images, CGI." And they were going to, he went out and did some field tests with it and proved that that was definitely the way they were going to go. And Spielberg decided that he was just going to have to break the news to Phil Tippett that they were going to be going in that direction. But Phil Tippett and his crew had really kind of come to understand how dinosaurs were going to be moving more so than, let's say, the guys who were behind the CG elements did. So Phil Tippett did stay on board and help with the creation of the dinosaurs through what he had already learned with his GoMotion technology. And the combination of him and Dennis Muren's teams coming together is what gives you the final product in the film. I don't think the CG dinosaurs would have worked without Phil Tippett's involvement in it. So it's not like he left the picture completely. He stayed on, and the teams kind of came together and gave you what you get in the film.
Awesome. Yeah. So you think the right decision was made to go with
I
CG
do.
over?
Yeah, I really
GoMotion?
do. And if you look at some of the tests, and nowadays it looks a little bit dated, it still looks very impressive considering that it was stop motion animation. Because
Yeah.
with that motion blur, it's I don't know, man. I think it looks pretty convincing. I really do. But I do think that they needed to go CG because of how realistic it looks, and just film needed to really start going in that
somebody
direction.
had to push the
Yeah.
push the ceiling up on this whole thing, and it took a while for. I think all the stuff in Jurassic Park looked really good because they knew the limits of the technology and they didn't try to push it too far. The same way that the 3D in Avatar worked so well, because I think that Jim Cameron knew what worked and what didn't. So. Yeah, I think CG was definitely the way to go in this. So, but Grant has a funny line in this where he starts talking about how the Brachiosaurus was actually warm-blooded and not cold-blooded, because actually seeing in that size, apparently it has something to do with the heart of the dinosaur, of the beast, if you will. If its heart wouldn't be able to pump cold blood across the whole thing.
That's
so
right.
this kind of, I think this has come out maybe a little bit before Jurassic Park came out. There was actually kind of a watershed moment in paleontology in the kind of studies of dinosaurs that, that's a little bit prior to this is when you started hearing people talk about dinosaurs were actually evolving into birds instead of being wiped out by a cataclysm. And also the idea that some of them might have actually been warm-blooded, Brachiosaurus included in that. So that's a little throwaway line he has, but that was kind of the prevailing idea when Jurassic Park came out, was that people started to discover that, wait a minute, this thing's heart couldn't pump blood like that, so it had to be warm-blooded. So
It's neat that Grant is making certain observations as the film goes along.
he has
about how-
evidence to back up his
Yeah,
theories,
yeah,
doesn't he?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
So it's kind of funny, though. He says, hey, we're out of a job. This thing's here now. Much like stop-motion animation guys were out of the job at that point,
completely.
too. So, yeah.
It's ironic.
Well, the cool thing about that is if you're a guy who has developed GoMotion and has worked in something like that, it's probably a good idea, a good way for you to transform over into the head of a crew that works on CGI, because you probably know more about motion and shadow and things like that than anybody else. So it's
you're going to know stuff that they're not going to know. So it's
out of one job into another one, basically. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Phil Tippett actually came back on board for Jurassic World and helped there in a large way. So he's a really interesting guy. I always enjoy hearing like interviews with him and all of his experience, because I mean he's worked on everything from like the Star Wars films to, I don't know if you've ever seen Dragon Slayer.
Love it.
But yeah,
Peter McNichol. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Janosch.
Yeah, and the Indiana Jones film. So he's got just a lot of awesome work. All throughout the 80s, you would see stop motion really kind of being perfected. And I don't know, it's always cool to see stuff like that, especially in the Star Wars films. And then here we are in 1993, and it's kind of obliterated at that moment.
Very, very cool. All right, we got anything else for this minute?
No, that's it.
Me either. All right, well, it's been a really fun day, folks. Join us back again for minute number 22 tomorrow, where we will continue to talk about Brachiosaurus and T-Rex and all that other stuff. Well, I'm Kyle.
I'm Brady.
And until next time, hold on to your butts.
Jurassic Park Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the podcast, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can contact us at JurassicParkMinute@gmail.com and visit us online at JurassicParkMinute.com, Facebook.com/JurassicParkMinute, and Twitter.com/JurassicMinute.